If our robot starts out in the lower left corner of the maze pointed north, and we tell it to move forward, it's going to move just like this, and we should update the mouse row variable because it's moved from being in row 3 to being in row 2. We want to update the mouse row variable right after the robot has made its movement, right at the end of the forwardWhiskers function. So right here, it would make sense to add an if statement that said something to the effect of, if the robot moves north, subtract 1 from the mouse row variable, and maybe add another if statement that says, if the robot moves south, add 1 to the mouse row variable. Turns out there's an easier way to do that, and that is to set the mouse row variable equal to itself plus something that we pull from the neighboring cells array, something that corresponds to the mouse's heading as well as whether we're dealing with rows or columns. Because we're dealing with rows, I'm going to put a 0 here. To understand this line of code a little better, let's take a quick peek at the neighboring cells array and remember that this row corresponds to north, east, south, and west. And this column corresponds to what's happening to the rows. So if my robot's headed north, then I need to add a -1 to the row. And if my robot's headed south, I'm going to add a +1 to the row. Now, there's one other thing I can do to improve this line of code, and that is to delete this portion and just say plus equals, which will accomplish the same thing. Once you've made this or added this line of code to the forwardWhiskers function, scroll up to the end of your setup function and uncomment the call to the calibrate function. And we're going to add a little bit of space below the add walls east function. This is something we're going to want to happen every single time our mouse runs through the maze. And everything below this is going to evolve from here on forward. So I'm going to make a call to the forwardWhiskers function. And now it's time to upload it to the robot and see how it works. And here you can see our code is working correctly. The maze printed to the serial monitor shows the robot has moved 1 cell to the north. Right now your robot only updates its position when it moves north or south, when it changes rows. In order to get the same functionality for east and westward movement, you're going to have to add another line of code right below the one we just wrote that's specific to columns. To test your code, change your mouse's initial location and heading so that it's pointed east and has a wall to the right so that the calibration function will work. You'll also want to comment out the line of code within your setup that adds a wall to the east. Then run your program and make sure that the picture painted on the serial monitor matches what you saw happen in real life.